If you visit Japan, you will hear one word over again, Sumimasen. At restaurants, in stores, on the streets, Japanese people say Sumimasen all the time. But why? Are they constantly apologizing? Are they always feeling guilty about something? Actually, the meaning of Sumimasen is not just I'm sorry. It's much more than that. In this chapter, we'll explore why Japanese people use Sumimasen so often and what it really means. First, let's look at some situations where Japanese people use Sumimasen. Imagine you're in a restaurant in Japan. You want to call a waiter. What do you say? In many countries, you might just make eye contact or raise your hand, but in Japan, people say Sumimasen. Or imagine someone lets you pass on a crowded street. Instead of thank you, many Japanese people say Sumimasen. Even when paying at a store, you might hear the cashier say Sumimasen as they take your money. So, are Japanese people always apologizing? Not really. Most people assume Sumimasen means I'm sorry, and yes, it is often used as an apology, but that's not the whole story. In Japan, Sumimasen is also used to get someone's attention and even as a way to say thank you. It's a unique word that reflects Japanese culture and the importance of politeness in daily life. In the next chapters, we'll break down these different meanings and see exactly how Japanese people use Sumimasen in real life. In the last chapter, we discovered that Japanese people say Sumimasen all the time. But did you know that it doesn't always mean I'm sorry? Many foreigners assume that Sumimasen is just an apology, but in reality, this word has three major uses: as an apology, as a way to get attention, and surprisingly, as a way to say thank you. Let's break down each meaning and see how it's used in real life. First, the most common meaning, an apology. Sumimasen is often used just like I'm sorry in English. For example, in Japan, if you accidentally bump into someone even slightly, you automatically say Sumimasen. This is a cultural habit, even if no real harm is done. Saying Sumimasen shows that you acknowledge the other person's presence and care about their feelings. Another common situation is when you make a mistake. If you forget an appointment or arrive late, Sumimasen is the default way to apologize. In formal situations, Sumimasen can also be replaced by a more serious apology like Mashwek Arimasen or Gomennesai. But Sumimasen isn't always an apology. In Japan, people also use it to get someone's attention. Imagine you're at a restaurant and need the waiter. Instead of waving or waiting patiently, in Japan, people say Sumimasen. It's a polite and direct way to get attention, and it's completely normal in Japanese culture. The same applies when asking for help. If you're lost in Japan, you can approach a stranger and start with Sumimasen before asking for directions. This small phrase makes your request sound much more polite and natural. In offices, Sumimasen is also used before interrupting someone. Instead of suddenly speaking up, employees say Sumimasen first to signal that they have a request. Now, this might surprise you, but in some cases, Sumimasen actually means thank you. How does that work? Well, Japanese people often feel that when someone does something nice for them, they are causing the other person trouble, even if it's a small favor. So instead of just saying arigato, thank you, they say Sumimasen to acknowledge both gratitude and a sense of humility. For example, if someone holds the door open for you, in many cultures you'd say thank you. But in Japan, many people naturally say Sumimasen instead. Similarly, if a friend helps you carry something heavy, instead of thank you, many Japanese people instinctively say Sumimasen. So, Sumimasen is not just an apology. It's also a way to get attention, and even a way to say thank you. Understanding these different meanings will help you use Sumimasen more naturally in Japan. In the next chapter, we'll explore why Japanese culture values Sumimasen so much and how it connects to deeper social traditions. Now that we understand the different meanings of sumimasen, let's explore why Japanese people use it so much. The reason lies deep in Japanese culture, especially in three key values: social harmony, humility, and consideration for others. To truly understand sumimasen, we need to look at these cultural values and how they shape the way Japanese people communicate. In Japan, maintaining harmony, known as wa, is one of the most important social principles. Japanese people avoid direct confrontation and try to keep interactions smooth and peaceful. That's why even in neutral situations, where no one is actually at fault, people still say sumimasen. It helps maintain harmony and prevent unnecessary tension. For example, imagine two people reaching for the same item at a store at the same time. In Japan, both would likely say sumimasen and step back slightly. This isn't an apology. It's a way of acknowledging the other person and avoiding conflict. Another reason why sumimasen is used so often is that Japanese people are very conscious of not causing trouble for others. From childhood, Japanese people are taught to be considerate and avoid inconveniencing others as much as possible. This mindset is reflected in the way they use sumimasen, not just to apologize, but also to express gratitude when receiving help. For example, if someone steps aside to let you pass on a crowded street, many Japanese people instinctively say sumimasen instead of arigato. It's as if they're saying, "I appreciate it, but I'm sorry for the trouble." Even when receiving a favor, they feel a slight sense of guilt, and sumimasen helps them express that feeling. Japan is famous for its unique approach to hospitality, known as omotenashi. This concept emphasizes anticipating the needs of others and providing service with humility. In customer service, sumimasen is often used not as an apology, but as a way to show respect and humility. For example, when a hotel staff member serves tea to a guest, they may say sumimasen while bowing slightly. This is not because they did something wrong, it's a way of showing respect to the guest. Similarly, at a store, when a cashier accepts payment from a customer, they might say sumimasen as they take the money. This small phrase makes the interaction feel smoother and more polite, reinforcing the values of humility and respect. By now, we understand how Japanese people use sumimasen in daily life. But wait, isn't gomen nesai also an apology? So, what's the difference between sumimasen and gomen nesai? When should you use each one? Let's break it down and explore how Japanese people naturally choose between them. One key difference is formality. Sumimasen is more polite and can be used in professional or formal situations. Gomen nesai, on the other hand, is more casual and used with friends or family. For example, if you step on a stranger's foot on the train, you would say sumimasen. But if you step on a friend's foot, gomen nesai or just gomen is more natural. In professional settings, using gomen nesai might sound too casual. Instead, sumimasen or even moushiwake gozaimasen is more appropriate. Another major difference is how serious the apology is. Sumimasen is often used for minor mistakes or social interactions, while gomen nesai is used for deeper apologies. For example, if you're a few minutes late to meet a friend, sumimasen is enough. But if you completely forget their birthday, gomen nesai is the better choice. The stronger your feeling of regret, the more appropriate gomen nesai becomes. In business situations, sumimasen is the preferred way to apologize. Gomen nesai is not commonly used in formal work settings. If you make a small mistake in a meeting, saying gomen nesai might sound too casual. Instead, professionals say sumimasen, or for very serious mistakes, mushiwake gozaimasen. So, if you're ever in a Japanese workplace, remember, sumimasen is the safest choice for a professional apology. If you're ever unsure, sumimasen is usually the safer option. In the next chapter, we'll explore whether foreigners should use sumimasen as much as Japanese people do. By now, we understand how and why Japanese people use sumimasen. But here's a question: should foreigners visiting Japan use it too? Would saying sumimasen too much sound strange? Or would it help make your interaction smoother? In this chapter, we'll break it down and give you some useful tips. First, let's talk about how Japanese people feel when a foreigner uses sumimasen. Generally, Japanese people appreciate it when foreigners try to use polite Japanese. It shows respect for the culture and makes communication smoother. Even if your Japanese isn't perfect, saying sumimasen in the right situations will help you blend in and leave a good impression. However, using sumimasen in the wrong situations or too frequently can sometimes sound unnatural. Some foreigners, after learning about sumimasen, start using it for everything. While this isn't a major problem, it can sometimes sound excessive. For example, if you receive a service at a restaurant and say sumimasen instead of arigatou gozaimasu, it might sound a bit odd. Or if you apologize multiple times in a situation where one sumimasen is enough, it might make you seem overly nervous or unsure of yourself. So, the key is balance. Use sumimasen where it's natural, but don't overdo it. A good rule of thumb is, if you're apologizing or asking for something, sumimasen is great. If you're expressing gratitude, arigatou is usually better. The more you use sumimasen correctly, the more comfortable you'll feel communicating in Japan. And with that, we wrap up our deep dive into the fascinating world of sumimasen. We hope this guide helps you understand Japanese culture better. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content about Japanese culture. And if you have any questions or want to share your experiences with sumimasen, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.